First Lady held an assembly at a school in Osceola County to heighten students' understanding of the dangerous, life-altering effects of substance use and abuse. Her campaign, The Fact's Your Future, just one element of our strategy to address the havoc that drug abuse and misuse has wreaked all across Florida. We can and must lower the demand for drugs through education and outreach programs, but we also must fight the supply of drugs and crack down on dealers and traffickers, particularly of substances like fentanyl. And if you look at what's going on in the southern border right now, I don't think we've ever seen anything like this with the massive numbers of people that are coming across the border illegally. It's fueling a massive infusion of fentanyl into this country. And for the first time, I think, in the history of our country, the leading cause of death for people 18 to 45 in the United States of America is now fentanyl overdose. So we have seen this firsthand in the state of Florida. One of my first actions as governor was to create the statewide task force on opioid abuse to develop a statewide strategy to combat the opioid epidemic through education, treatment, prevention, recovery, and law enforcement. So today, we will be signing HB 95, which implements the recommendations of the task force into law. So first, the bill makes the distribution of methamphetamine, which causes the death of a person, to be a felony murder. We do that with other substances. We will do it with that. And there is methamphetamine coming across the border as well. Used to see people making it here in the United States. It's actually not as much as it used to be, but it's way more coming across the border now. The bill enhances the penalties for selling controlled substances within 1,000 feet of substance abuse treatment facilities. And in addition to those recommendations, HB 95 increases the mandatory minimum sentence for trafficking fentanyl and analogs, which has impacted communities across Florida and across the United States. As I mentioned, it was the leading cause of death for Americans 18 to 45 in the year 2021. And if you look at what can be done when you're bringing it across the border, for example, just 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be a fatal dose. So if you have 1,200 pounds of fentanyl, like was seized at the border just last month, that's enough to kill almost 90% of the United States population. So drug dealers are increasingly lacing other drugs with fentanyl, and we've seen it in a wide variety of substances. You saw it a couple months ago or recently in Fort Lauderdale. There was spring break. You had these spring breakers, using cocaine and had fentanyl. It was so potent that the Good Samaritan bystanders who saved the lives of one of the students went into respiratory arrest because of the fentanyl exposure they experienced just from doing CPR. So we're going to do all we can to decrease the prevalence of fentanyl in Florida, and that means if you're dealing fentanyl, you are killing people and you are going to be put in jail. The Biden administration's reckless open border policies have threatened the safety of all Americans, but certainly of Floridians, as we continue to see record amount. In fiscal year 2021, Customs and Border Patrol seized 11,000 pounds of fentanyl. That was more than double they had seized in 2020. And at least 90% of all seized fentanyl has come across the southern border. Already this year, 6,000 pounds of fentanyl has been seized. And so if you look at what we've seen recently, we've seen an increase in opioid deaths across the country, including here in Florida. According to Florida Medical Examiners Commission, fentanyl caused 5,300 deaths in 2020, more than any other narcotic. And then while we have some data for the first 6 months of 2021 only, opioid-related deaths increased another 5.5%, and deaths caused by fentanyl increased by almost 10% in the first 6 months. And so this is something that's affecting communities all across our state. You talk to sheriffs, you talk to police chiefs, you talk to first responders, and this is something that's all too common. And so I'm thankful for the legislature to step up and do something about it. We have a whole variety of ways that we're trying to combat this epidemic, but you do need to hold people accountable. And that's what we'll end up doing here today. And so we're going to hear from some folks here, and then I will sign the bill into law. So first, we're going to have Sheriff Grady Judd from Polk County.